Welcome to the Nobody Told Me That podcast. My name is Teresa Duncan, and my goal is to share information that you probably weren't thinking about. I love preparing my friends for situations that may come completely out of the blue. I also want to share with you many of the tidbits I picked up over the years. If you absolutely have to tune out before the end of the show, make sure to check out the show notes for more details on today's topics and information about my online class, Dental Insurance Design and Management. And thank you so much for making me a part of your day. I'd like to give a shout out to my friends at Synergy Dental Partners for sponsoring our podcast. They know how important the admin team is to our industry. Synergy is a group purchasing organization, or GPO. GPOs reduce your overhead with lower supply costs. They also have partnerships with labs and various service providers. You owe it to your revenue cycle to check them out. They're giving Nobody Told Me That listeners a 2-month free trial and a $200 Darby credit for new Darby customers. For more information, check out the link in the show notes or go to odysseymgmt.com/synergy. And we are back with another episode of Nobody Told Me That, and this time we're swimming in marketing waters. So typically I spend all my time in coding and management and real geeky revenue stuff, and now I'm coming up for air because we need to talk about how to get all this messaging out. So I have the founder of The Art of Dental Marketing here, Sean Hamel. How are you?
Good, Teresa. It's always good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited that we have something a little bit different, but still totally applicable to our offices. We have there's a lot of competition out there, not just from companies or offices that are participating with insurance. You know, they're getting their patients driven by the carriers, but now we have a lot of people out there going out of network, or they're realizing maybe I don't want to rely on insurance. They're starting out that way. Mm-hmm. And so this whole thing of marketing is coming around, and there is a lot of noise in that market. So I'm glad you're here to shed some light. And listeners, what I mean by that is you get inundated by people saying, I have an all-in-one solution. And then you get social media specialists and you get SEO specialists. And so I'm glad that you agreed to come on and kind of give some clarity on that. Now, you specialize, of course, the art of dental marketing, but you have this story-based approach, right, which is not typically something you hear. So tell me, what does that mean? Like, if you're trying to tell me at a conference, this is why I should use you, like, why do I care if it's story-based?
Right. So a lot of it, honestly, is just the emotional journey that people go on in choosing a dentist, right? So, typical dental marketing, like you alluded to, it's very templated. Like everybody, you kind of pick A, B, or C. You get the same, service matrix, if you will. A lot of times, you've got a really template website that's getting put up. A lot of times, like it's the same blog posts, right? It's the same language about every procedure. And so with dental marketing, over the last 9 years of doing this and working with all of the practices that we've worked with, I really delved into story-based marketing because I started to learn how emotional people are when they make a decision, just from the fact that statistically most people are afraid to go to the dentist. And there's not a lot of career fields out there where the practitioner is somebody that people are afraid of. And so like when I speak, I always say you've got like dental, skydiving schools, tattoo shops, right? Like there's not a lot of things, but it has an effect on the buying decision. Mm-hmm. And a lot of marketing that exists in dental, a lot of people are getting in dental because you can charge dental tax, right? You can charge multiplied fees. Mm-hmm. And another thing when I speak that I talk about is everybody talks about being expensive nowadays, but there's never a talk about being valuable. And to really move dentistry, move the needle for a doctor, not only do you have to generate traffic, which is usually where most of the marketing stops, you have to convert that traffic. Otherwise, you're not making money. Like if that lead doesn't convert, or, your cost per click and all that is affected by people that are actually engaging. So if you pay to generate, 1,000 leads and 2 of them call the practice, right? The issue usually is a branding issue. It's a messaging issue. It's not getting in front of more eyeballs. So when you have a marketer that's coming at it from a very generic stance of, I'm a doctor, I work on teeth, I wear a white coat, I went to school, I'm really smart, here's the ins and outs of the procedures. And then you have a buyer on the other side of that who is afraid, or at least apprehensive. They understand what you do, but they don't know if you or anybody else is clinically better than the doctor next door, because you both are saying the same thing. And dentistry is one of those things where, like, if you tell me, hey, I'm a dentist, dentist. I get it. You work on teeth. You're a doctor. You're smart. You don't have to tell me you're smart. I already know that you're smart, right? But what I want to know is why should you be my dentist? And that comes down to patient experience. And all the practices I've ever met, they all have their own little uniqueness, right? Of what it is that they do to give a great experience to their patients. All of the doctors have usually a pretty unique path into why they do what they do. Why do they practice where they practice? Why are they passionate about the kind of dentistry that they practice? And that valuable information gets omitted completely from the average marketing plan because nothing's custom, nothing is ever creative. It's all just churn and burn. Like, how many people can I get to buy package A to
Yeah.
where this marketing agency is making money? And it's a huge problem. It's a really
So,
big problem.
so it sounds like you're talking about more than just beefing up the bio, because that's typically what I will see or I've heard in older marketing classes where make sure your bio makes you sound so friendly and family person. And if you have a dog, make sure the dog is up there and all
Right.
that. But that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about, is it, does it mean like leading with patients rather than leading with the doctor? Like there are more patients on the website?
It's really all encompassing. So like when you say
Okay.
like what is story based marketing, you have to also like segment it into like what's the emotional journey that the potential patient's going on. So you start like version 1, right? Your first interaction is usually apprehension and fear, and they're looking at 5 other offices. So when you and me and everybody else on earth, like when we're fearful and apprehensive of something, we're always trying to like poke and prod, and you try to find commonality because there's safety, right? And having things in common. So if I can show them really quickly on the website through the use of video photography, the office, the operatory, what it's going to look like, who they're going to see, what the chairs look like, what we're going to experience, especially when like mom's booking appointments for the kids and she's super skeptical about where to take
Sure.
them.
Yeah.
If I can give them kind of a gateway into what the experience is going to look like, it kind of takes the edge off a little bit versus showing just stock photography, or where
Mm.
you clearly know, like you see practices in like Ohio and they have like a couple walking on the beach and it's like that's not Ohio. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like that's the first part. And then
Yeah.
once you have their interest and you've helped take the fear bases down, then it's, well, who is the doctor as a person? And when
Mhm.
I talk to dentists and speak, and it's, if you think about your favorite patients, you guys probably have things in common, whether it's like a season of life or a hobby or an interest or something that has nothing to do with the dentistry,
Mhm.
right? And so that's where you lead into who the doctor is, hobbies, interest, making them a person so they're not scary clinician in a white coat. And
Okay.
it's funny because it's the same emotional process as like when referrals work so well for
Mhm.
dental practices. It's because you
Mhm.
have scary situation, not really looking forward to going,
Yeah.
but I have a coworker or a friend or a family member that had a good experience, and they take the wall down of like, hey, that place is great. It's awesome. You'll
Mhm.
have a good time. The doctor's so much fun. It's the same process, but you can inject that across your marketing. You just have to take the story piece and then also understand the psyche of the person that you want to convert as a patient and give them little nuggets of it in a sequence that we figured out converts traffic at a really high clip because we're making people feel really emotionally safe. So
Okay.
it's like multi-layered in terms of how you effectively do this. But yes, humanizing the doctor, making yourself approachable. I love to take lifestyle photos with our doctors. So, them pushing their kids on the swings, right, with their family.
Yeah.
And you think about the mindset, right? So if you're in an area that's heavy with residential, and
Yeah.
you've got a lot of families, and you have one website where I see a doctor and he's maybe a young bachelor, right?
Mhm.
Slicked back hair, practices ultra modern, or I see another doctor who wholesome, married, stable, has kids. Where's a mom going to kind of be drawn to because of where does she think the kids are going to get treated the best, right? And
Oh,
nothing
I got it.
against kids or not having kids, but there's so many little intangibles that are the difference between a dentist making money and not making money.
Well, you've got to know your audience. I mean, if kids
Exactly.
are what is coming to your office, I mean, if you throw up your office next to an elementary school, you're going to get kids.
Hmm.
So you got to be ready for that, whether or not. I mean, that should be part of the buying decision,
Totally.
anyways. When you have a company like mine, the way I capture leads is I either have to have a newsletter or I have to give a lead magnet. Okay. So the healthcare world is a little bit different. Is there a way to capture how much interest you're getting? But dentists don't give away a white paper on, or a guide to your teeth. That typically doesn't happen. So how are we tracking how much interest, and can we get that person to come back? I mean, how do we do that? Like, I guess the retention, turning a colder lead into a warmer lead, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so a lot of the practice management softwares, like they have tremendous capability in there in terms of tracking. We don't integrate or anything because I don't need to. Most of the softwares already do it. It's
Hmm.
just kind of going the extra mile with it and then coupling it with, we have real-time dashboards. We track everything meticulously. If somebody calls you, like I know where it came from, right? We know if it's coming from something we've built, something we're advertising, if it's organic, etc.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like those kind of things are important to track, but you'll also know too if you have a bunch of leads coming in off of a source, but you're not getting a lot of patients or you're getting patients you don't want to see. And I always tell dentists, we can use your marketing to deflect people away, which is just as important as getting people to come to you. So it's really down to, making sure that just the message itself, top to bottom, is really dialed in because it goes that kind of entry point where we're warming them up to the experience and we're taking the safety net down,
Hmm.
humanizing the doctor and giving them connection points where it's like, oh, he plays guitar, I play guitar too, cool, we have that in common.
Ah, okay.
And
Okay.
then from that point is really when we move into, instead of talking about price and insurance and all those things first, I like to lead with social proof in terms of like video testimonials. So
Okay.
having people saying, hey, everything that they're saying and more is what you get here. And it's
Okay.
different than reading Google reviews, having people tell their story in
Do
any
people
number of
do
things.
that?
Hmm.
People have them read the Google reviews? Like that's kind of
Well, a lot of
um
places will just like put a widget on the site that just
oh
has the Google
yeah.
reviews and then they expect the user to read them.
It's weird. That's weird. I never read those. Like that's just
And it's
I
totally
mean,
different like when somebody's telling you about their experience versus you
yeah.
reading it. So,
Okay, and so I noticed like video is a big piece of what you do.
mhm.
How much video is too much video? Is there like how do you balance that out? Because sometimes when I want to find information, like I'll scroll through something and videos are like auto playing as I scroll, and I'm like, okay, enough. I just want to get to this piece. Like, do you find that sometimes there's too much video when it comes to story based, or is that you just can't do
um,
enough?
I think a lot of it, like the autoplay feature and stuff, I think it's where you make it annoying for
Yeah.
people, but having it kind of resting there, we really focus on, like I said, showing the office and the operatories and the experience. We do live bios is what I call them, but it's the doctor introducing themselves as if they were meeting them in person, and we show
Okay.
like insight into their life and who they are.
That's
um,
great.
and then we also do longer form video. So I find with getting a patient to convert, if I start short, like 10, 15 seconds, and then I expand, I can get them to watch longer videos as I keep them going on an emotional journey of like, okay, I'm interested, right?
Hmm.
So it's kind of like dating. You have that real short, like, meet me for coffee, right? And
Yeah.
so we're
Yeah.
going on this journey with them because it is a relationship. But we use video in a lot of creative ways too. Like I like to be outside the box with everything we do. I mean, we do TV commercials and streaming ads and stuff like that. We've also done campaigns where we've done like ultra high end practices. We've done video like pre and post op instruction where they send it to the patient after, right?
I
And
mean,
it's
that's so smart. I don't know why most people don't do that. Yeah, go
and
ahead.
it
Sorry.
but the patient's like, whoa, like the doctor took time out of their day to make this video for me. And it's just those little things to have that person singing your praises, because again, you have to think the average person doesn't know if their dentist is clinically great. And like when somebody says, hey, how was your dentist appointment, they're not like, well, his margins were a little off. Like it's not, it's just like, do I
Yeah,
like him or do I not like him? And that's
right.
the whole basis of, are you a good dentist or not, to the average person.
Yeah,
So it's really, we just simplify and document and crystal clear communication with people of here's what to expect, here's other people that have gone through the process. We understand, like, that it's not necessarily, you don't outright say it, but you just kind of come from a position of knowing that the person's apprehensive and fearful, and
yeah.
instead of like being aggressive with them, it's more of kind of a nurturing type vibe. But we
Okay.
use video in so many ways, like all over the place.
The pre and post op, I mean, that's so easy to do. I mean, do you have them do it individually, like for every patient, or do you have like one generic one and you direct them to that video? And do you hide the view count on it though? So like people can see it's not like
Yeah, so
the
you
just the
can,
video.
so there's different software, like you can embed it like actually in the email themselves, or
Okay.
you can send it to a page. We've done it, it really is kind of the vibe of the doctor. So
Okay.
we've done it where it's more professional, like you can tell it's created. I've had some docs that are just naturally super extroverted and they're super good
Yeah.
at relationships,
Yeah.
and they film it vertical like they're on their phone, so it looks like they like are walking through the office checking in on them.
That's great.
It's we have a lot of flexibility in terms of, I don't like to keep doctors in boxes. And if you go to like on our website, we have a lot of samples of stuff we've done with video. We've done all kinds of stuff that's equated to a lot of growth for our docs.
I think it's cool. Like, so if you have the machine that scans for the clear aligners and all of that, and then you have the milling machine, like those are such cool videos to put up there.
Mhm.
And then um, one office was doing some training on the AI imaging, and they took a small video of them learning it, and you could see all the colors on the screen. It was like, see, that's just so intuitive. And I
Mhm.
think, I'm definitely of the older generation. We don't think to just whip out a phone for everything,
Yeah.
and so so there's something to be learned from the generation that's like, oh, I need to share this, this is so cool. Whereas
Yeah.
I don't think that way.
Well, and we have a totally free resource that we made. I didn't tell you about this before the call, but it's called Pocket Video Coach. We developed it like during COVID kind of.
Okay.
But you just go to pocketvideocoach.com. It's
Okay.
there's an ebook that you download, and then there's 7 modules that you watch, and we teach you how to shoot, because most people's phones will shoot in 4K and 1080. So we
Yeah.
teach you how to create really high quality video with your
Okay.
phone, and we cover everything from lighting to editing to audio, the whole deal. So,
Perfect.
because a lot of times people shoot on their phone and it's really shaky or you can't hear anything, it was a free resource that we developed, and it's been really popular.
Okay.
We're not going to
Great.
like harass you. We're not going to bombard you with sales pitches. It literally is just a tool to help dentists make good content.
Okay, so listeners, I will put that in the show notes. I wrote it down, and I'm going to go check that out because I know my wonderful editor Dre. I know he's listening because he's going to be editing this. He's just always trying to give me tips on how to look better, and I've learned a lot about lighting and about my neck because I'm getting older. There's this whole thing.
I
So
like
so
your
great.
nails. Your nails are on point today.
Thank you. Yes,
Hmm.
thank you very much.
Hmm.
See, yeah. So I could do some things right.
Bright colors.
Uh, okay, you said commercials. How often? Because the cost on commercials, not just your piece, but the piece to put it into. So you're talking talk radio, you're talking TV. So what? Talk radio, obviously, you don't need video, but you do need something, right? So is the ROI like? Are you only doing that if you are doing big cases? Like a dentist is just kind of bread and butter. Like is a TV commercial going to be the way to go?
No, I would never tell a doctor to do anything I wouldn't do. And
Hmm.
every office that we work with, like I don't have a every practice does this. Like everything's custom for that doctor, their goals, their audience, what they want to do. We do TV commercials a lot for our specialists, like in terms of
Okay.
specialty practices. Having those like regional DSO or the multi-location groups too, the privately owned ones,
Yeah.
it's powerful when you've got a city blanketed to do those, because you've
Hmm.
got access to a lot of people. You can get in front of people, like streaming ads, for instance. So like Hulu, Netflix, Prime, those pre-roll commercials, those are really inexpensive compared to traditional TV.
Really?
But even that, we can usually generate through story-based marketing, the emotional things that I'm talking about, how we position our doctors, the campaigns that we build for them. We can generate really good revenue for our doctors without them having to take that step,
Okay.
because we can put their video on their Google business profile. We can run YouTube ads and things that are inexpensive. So there's ways we can use video, but to me, it's I rarely will pitch TV commercials to a practice that don't bring it up to me first. Just because it is a huge expense, and there's other ways that we can generate revenue. Not to say that commercials don't work, but I will never say you have to do them or you're going to fail. A lot of the practices that we work with are coming off of agencies where there's no custom planning. We have ground marketing calls every quarter with our clients to look at
Hmm.
what's going on in the community, who's by your practice, what maybe relationships can we forge, things like that. None of that's happening. And it makes a huge difference with a dental practice that's essentially a small community based business
Yeah.
to do those kind of things. Some docs do say, I want to do TV commercials. And it's like, well, why? Like, why don't you
Yeah. Well,
keep the money? Like,
they
why?
heard the specialist, it works well for the specialist, but then if
Hmm.
you're a general dentist, it's not. I mean, again, people are always comparing apples to oranges and not
Yeah.
apples to apples. So
And
now
it
you
depends
meant,
on the market too. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it's going to cost a little bit more in Miami to do a commercial than if you're in like rural Idaho, right?
of
So,
course.
true story.
Okay, so here's a question for you because you mentioned community and you mentioned ground marketing, and in our pregame, we were talking about is there, do you have to spend big money? And you made the comment to me that community marketing is usually even more effective than all this Google search and all that kind of stuff. So that was a very big statement.
Hmm.
So can we dive into that? What do you mean by that?
So, dentistry at its core is a relationship business, like it is. I mean,
Yeah.
people get into dentistry like that's you're it's like a realtor. Like it's a lot of referral, it's a lot of people knowing who you are.
Yeah.
And Google and all those things are great, but there's, algorithmically there's only so much you can do without breaking the rules. And even with SEO and all those things, yes, you can optimize, you can make yourself rank well, but there's so much opportunity in getting out in the community, and a lot of practices are already doing it, Teresa. They just don't document it. So
Mm.
there's, like, one of our clients now is a pediatric office, right? And she's new, so she's trying to step into an existing community with a new brand. There was a trampoline park right across the street, and so we facilitated through her and through the trampoline park a way for them to work together to do
Hmm.
some dual branding, because there's lots of kids coming through there, and
Sure.
it's a good marketing opportunity for her, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. It's proximal, and it's a relationship that she has. So, when we talk about social media and things, and doctors come in and it's like, hey, I want somebody to run our social media. I mean, we'll happily do it for you, of course, but there's things that you can do too to maximize the return of just your time. Because that's the other thing, Teresa, is dentists don't realize, like, whether you're like what you're physically spending every time that you're not doing dentistry, there is a ticker above your head that's running,
Yes, for
because
sure.
your time's
For sure.
super valuable.
Yeah.
So it's as easy as, if you and your team, if there's a spot that you go to lunch every Thursday, or
Hmm.
there's you stop at the local bakery and get donuts or something, tag those businesses, because, like, reciprocity is huge with small
Yeah.
business, and it's
Yeah.
so underutilized. Tag those businesses and you immediately get access to their followers, and you can use that back and forth to really start building awareness in the community without, you're not spending money all the time. And somebody
Mm.
say, oh yeah, like, I saw their, I saw their flyer at the trampoline park the other day. And we've done it with, like, one of our clients. She was big with, her dog, like, she loves her pup, right? So
Hmm.
there was a big dog park dog walking group, so we facilitated a little thing with a pet photographer, and she got patients off of that.
Wow, that's
and
great.
and it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning, where you're not so scary when you have stuff in common.
Yeah.
So if you
Okay.
use your hobbies and interests and the stuff that you're doing outside the office to bridge that gap, everybody that plays guitar, that's into photography, or plays tennis or whatever, that you
Hmm.
can find, that's usually going to be a pretty good relationship. Not all of them, but you're going to have more buy-in with that patient than if it's just somebody coming in for a special, or just somebody
Wow.
randomly coming in.
So it brings up two stories. So now that you're saying it, that makes total. I mean, this was so smart. These people, the two stories I'm going to share with you, and it really goes into what you were saying. So one doctor, she always went to the coffee shop that was in the same building. And so she started leaving toothbrushes with a little tag that said, enjoy your coffee. Let us know if you need a touch up on bleaching, or basically, I mean, the messaging was more succinct than that, but basically, it was for people who obviously they're concerned that drinking all this coffee is staining, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were little toothbrushes; they weren't like full size toothbrushes.
Mm-hmm.
Just here's a little something on us. And I thought that was brilliant. And the people that worked at the coffee shop, it wasn't a national chain; it was a local chain, our local shop, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, she comes in here all the time," and it was a perfect lead in. And then one of my very first clients, I always made fun of her for this, but she's pediatric, and she joined all of the local running groups in the
Smart.
area, the mommies running groups in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you are like, every time I talk to her, she's running. And I'm like, you're like Forrest Gump. You're like the Forrest Gump of dentists, like just running everywhere. But it worked. I mean, she had so many moms, and she was in all these young moms groups. And she eventually turned into a young mom, but it was like, oh my God, like you really literally ran for patients. Like that's what
Yeah.
happened. And it really did. I mean, thankfully she enjoyed it, but
Well, and
can you
that's and
imagine?
that's that's huge. Like, and that's where a lot of this comes from. For me, like, I started in dental marketing helping a friend. It was
Hmm.
never I never intended to have an agency. I
Yeah.
just really saw how underserved doctors really are across the board, with just guidance and ideas and those things. And the beauty of doing it this way is, not only does it work, like your friend, or your first client, it doesn't work,
Hmm.
but it doesn't add anything. So, dentists already are stressed. It's tough, right? And so adding more stuff to their to-do list is not good.
Right.
But if
Right.
you can just be you, what you're already doing, and we can document that, or we can figure out a way to plug in the dentistry piece to something you
Hmm.
already enjoy doing, like running, gyms, whatever. I love gyms for marketing, because you have health focused people that care about what they look like
Yeah.
perfect dental
Yeah.
candidates, right? But if you can plug in stuff you're already doing, It doesn't add anything to your day. It doesn't add any additional stress. You're going to go running anyway, right?
Hmm.
So the more that you can do that, and I know there's probably people listening that are like, well, I don't really do anything. The most obscure things, like if you like to go foraging, right? Like anything like that, there's
Yeah.
a community of people that do that too.
Yeah, I can imagine. We live near a creek in a wooded area, and geocaching is really big
Hmm.
right there. I mean, there's just also my son was in it for a while. I can imagine just leaving a toothbrush for somebody to find. Like that would be hilarious. But you don't have to go buy a full size like a Colgate or whatever a toothbrush. Like you can get the smaller ones because just the message has to get out there,
Hmm.
right? Like just almost like a or even just a little floss those floss threader cards, those cards that are flat and fit in the wallet. I used to take those everywhere with me and hand those out, and those were great marketing tools. I
Yeah,
love when
or like if you play guitar, instead of like handing make
the
guitar
pick.
picks, yeah,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
when you're, if you go to the music store, just talk to the owner. A lot of the little privately owned businesses just say, hey, do you care if I leave these on the counter? They're not going to care.
No, no, they'll be happy, right? Because that's something they don't have
And
to
then
buy.
take your phone out, take
Yeah,
a picture of it,
yeah.
tag Guitar Center or wherever you are
Hmm.
on the practice page, and then leave and let social media do what it does.
Yeah. Okay. So social media is part of your strategy. It's got to be part of the strategy,
It's
right?
it's definitely multi-touch in
Yeah.
terms of the website's really designed to warm them to convert. Everything else we do is to tell the story, to find the patients that the doctors want to see,
Hmm.
and to just be creative. Like I love it whenever I hear from a doctor that, oh yeah, so and so like thought our ad was so cool, or they thought that our promo was so cool. I mean, that client of ours with the pet photography, she still gets people from that because they just thought it was such a cool idea.
Oh, it is. I mean, people love their pets. Anything to do with your pet is gonna make it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, you said something earlier that just kind of cracked me up because I think I'm just at this later, saltier stage in my life where you
Saltier.
said, you said we can deter patients. And I just have seen so many patients that were terrible that, like, now I'm like, how do I deter these patients?
Hmm.
So, how do I deter these patients that I know are going to annoy me or going to stress me out or be that high maintenance squeaky wheel thing? What are you talking about when you say deter? Just a reminder to check out the companies who support the show. My friends at Synergy Dental Partners are offering 2 free months to try out their lower prices for labs, supplies, and select software services. To sign up, visit odysseymgmt.com/synergy, and the link is also in the show notes.
It's a great question. I don't think there's ever a way to like annoy proof of practice. But if you think about like brands like, like Lamborghini, right? Like brands like that, they don't have to advertise. And when they do advertise, they're not like, you're not having people up there kicking tires trying to haggle over the price of a Lamborghini.
Right,
So a
right.
lot of it is just in how you present, the language you use, the aesthetic that you give off, right?
Yeah.
You can convey all of that. I see practices that say, "Hey, I'm a world famous specialist in this procedure. I have people fly from all over the world to come see me," and their website literally is like white and it's all words, and there's like big chunky blue blocks. It doesn't convey anything, right, about the
Really?
practice. Yeah,
Yeah.
but people know when they see things, if it's like, yeah, like this is kind of bougie. I don't really know if this is where I want to go. It's really
Right.
that simple, and
Yeah.
it's in the textures you use. It's the way that you word things.
Hmm.
That's one thing that we learned early in my career. Is I had a multi-practice group that was in Illinois. They were in Chicago and in the suburbs, and I realized like, White Loop and Burbs, you've got white collar, blue collar at different education levels.
Yeah.
Downtown, we could say extraction and got a lot of search volume. Out in the Burbs, it didn't, because people were looking for any to get a tooth pulled. So
Yeah.
that's where we
Oh,
really started
interesting.
to learn that we need to. All that to say, though, it's most practices need to, like they say, I want a good patient, but when you really drill down with them, they don't really know what that means. It's like, I
Okay.
want somebody that can pay me and that's not going to like haggle me and that's going to show up. And I don't want anybody in my chair for an implant that has a 400 credit score. Like, how can we do that? Right. And a lot of it,
Yes.
it's just as simple as the picture that you paint for people. They pick up a lot on the cues of, oh, this is like really high end. This is not me.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
just there's so much that goes into it, but you can paint an aesthetic feel for people to give a vibe of like what you're looking for. And
Okay. Now
luxury brands are great at it.
that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, just you are younger than I am. I remember when there was the Yellow Pages ads, And you would see the biggest marketing tool that was being taught back then was making sure that you put in there, you cater to cowards. Like that was the big thing. We cater to cowards. Don't
Hmm.
worry, we'll hold your hand, all that kind of stuff. And now it's very different. You're seeing, so that was actually a form of relationship marketing, but in a weirder way,
Hmm.
because you're appealing to the people who are, like you said, terrified. And so now we're moving away from that. We don't want to say we cater to cowards unless you're doing sedation dentistry. Then you that is your message. But the average doctor now doesn't want to have somebody who's going to be obsessed with getting drugs afterwards, payment plans, like, and making sure that they actually show up like you said. So that's interesting that you could make that part of your marketing message, like maybe even during the walkthrough in video, you show them the process and how they come in, and we expect them, when you show up for your appointment and all that. So it's not like leaving it up in the air, like, yeah, you can cancel last minute.
Well, you'll start to see, like, once when I speak and I try to teach these principles to doctors, like that's my main goal is to educate them, because they're not getting, unfortunately there's not a lot of help in the marketing world right now, and helping doctors really convert traffic and do things that are specific to them, that are going to materialize to them actually making money. But if you look at just retail marketing, Walmart, right, to like Macy's or
Hmm.
Vineyard Vines or the higher end brands, you can see the websites feel different. The
Yeah.
photos they use are different. The way that they do their pricing structure and present pricing is different. So once you kind of start to, like, you hear hopefully this conversation and then go outside and you start to pay attention to the advertising that's around you,
Hmm.
it really starts to unlock for people of like, oh, okay. Like now I
Yeah.
see what he's talking about.
Okay.
Like there's a
Okay.
reason that Mercedes only advertises leases and Chevrolet tells you the MSRP of the car, right?
Ah.
Because if
Okay.
Mercedes said, "Hey, it's 85,000," you'd be like, "Huh," right?
Right. Right.
But if
Right.
it's like,
Yep.
"Hey, it's 439 a month," it's like, "Oh, so I could maybe get a Mercedes." So same thing.
There's no way you're getting a Mercedes for 439 a month unless it's like a 20-year lease. Come on now.
pre pre COVID maybe,
Yeah,
but
pre-COVID. Oh my gosh, things are so different now.
yeah.
So that's fascinating though that the streaming ads are cheaper than the traditional ads. I had never even thought of the streaming ads, but it makes sense because my son is 23. He doesn't watch traditional TV. He
Hmm.
always is like, oh, look at like you watching your shows. Like, now, I used to say that to my grandma with the soap operas. You're watching your shows, and that's what he says to me now. It's all streaming for him.
And even
Um,
even those, I mean, it's more of a want than a need, I would say. I
mhm.
think a lot of practices when we get in, again, we're wading through a lot of mediocrity, we're wading through a lot of template. Everybody has the same thing, so when we put these principles in place, most practices don't have a problem generating the traffic. It's
Mhm.
just the message is so basic and stale that it doesn't convert anything. So a lot of
Ah,
times when we can get that dialed in, the practice does okay, and then
okay.
we do things the doctor wants to do, and a lot of them do want to do that stuff. But we also like looking at ground marketing. If there's a movie theater, like people are going back to the movies in droves, right? Like people
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Those static ads in the movie theater are super cheap.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So even that's something we don't think about, but pre-COVID, a lot of pediatrics did for the kiddie shows, like the kiddie movies. You would see a lot of pediatric offices advertising for that. So
Yeah,
so the price is still pretty low on those.
depending
Okay.
on depending on where it is. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Listeners, one thing that was really funny before the show is he was like, "Let's walk through a site, and I'll show you what we do." And then we were both like, "I know this office, but they haven't given me permission.
Right.
Not this office." So, we should have planned better. I should have planned better so that I could have gotten permission. But because he wanted listeners, he wanted me to see like what he does when he goes through a strategy call. So I'm just going to have you say, what do you do when you go through a strategy call? Because I'm sure that there are some people that are like, oh man, it's been a long time since we refreshed our site. What's going on there, and how painful should we expect it to be?
It's not super simple. A lot of times, the hardest part is getting the other marketing company to play nice, because when you leave, usually that's when you kind of see, the true colors come out.
Ah, I
Um,
see.
and most of the time, but often we have to tear everything apart so much that we may as well just rebuild it. But
Mm,
there's a lot of care that goes into keeping the existing SEO intact and all of those
yeah.
things. The ground marketing piece, though, I think I'm the only agency that I know of that does this with doctors. But we look at the map. So,
Mm-hmm.
cyclically throughout the year, Q1 1 through 4, you have different mindsets of the people in the community, right? So usually, like coming off Christmas is a great time for visual stuff because everybody's new year, new me. So your whitening stuff, your pretty stuff, Invisalign, all that.
Nice.
It's also a good time to say, hey, I know it's January, but May is going to be here before you know it, and you've got graduation pictures and vacation, so it'd be you could straighten your smile between now and then.
Ah, okay. Good.
So instead of just saying, "Hey, we do Invisalign," right? You cater
Hmm.
it more to what the person's thinking about. Then in Q2, you've got all the busyness of graduation season and people like moving through the school year. So that's more of just kind of a mild type day after things or the day after St. Patty's Day, biggest emergency day of the year, right? So all throughout the year,
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Oh, I had no idea. Is there just lots of fights?
yeah, I think when people like fall down and stuff like that.
Oh,
But
that's
it's
right, because they're drunk. That's right. Got it.
but honestly, Teresa, like this is the biggest thing in dental marketing of why I get so passionate about it is because part of what you're paying your marketing company should be looking out for you like this and being like, be
Mhm.
creative now on this thing.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be so reactionary, right? Where they're waiting for you to say something to them of like,
Yeah.
hey, I want to do this, and then they either say we don't do that, or okay, it's going to be X amount of dollars, and the doctor just says, ah, forget it. Part of your
Right.
engagement should be having that partner that's being creative for you and telling you these things throughout the year. So, like you move into the summer, again, that's a good time to start reminding people, hey, it's going to be fall before you know it. Or if you want to start, Invisalign or any of those things, it's a good time because the kids are out of school. Just
Yeah.
dropping things that people already know, but being like, hey, here's how I fit into the part of your calendar that you're in.
Okay.
And then in the fall, move into like benefit usage. And then you can start reminding people in August, hey, you're going to be smiling in the family Christmas photos in 4 months. Like now's a good time to get started. So it's
Yeah.
kind of the same message. You just move it around.
Okay.
But with the
So,
ground marketing piece, right?
mhm,
I explain that to say we keep that in mind too with how we structure the ground marketing. So again, when I look at a location, I look for gyms, schools, churches first. Gyms,
yeah.
because like I said earlier, you've got health focused people that care about what they look like. Great candidates for dentistry.
Hmm.
Schools I like because it's super handy when I know I'm going to have big pockets of people in a certain spot.
Okay.
And if you're close to like a football stadium or something,
Yeah.
I know I'm going to have people in that spot. So schools are good because we know we have pickup and drop off, and I can kind of gauge when people are going to be in that circle. So you can do a lot of
Interesting.
really effective
Okay.
marketing. Churches are good too because I know Saturday, Sunday, different service times,
Yeah.
people are going to be in those areas. So it's just helpful to kind of gauge instead of just blanketing a city with a really generic, like I always say, the quality pain free dentistry message that everybody says.
Yeah.
It's more like, hey, mom, we know you're busy dropping the kids off. Don't forget we're right down the street if they need a quick dental checkup or something.
Nice. Okay.
So it converts
Nice.
more. And then from there, we look at what we talked about earlier. I asked the doc, what's your hobbies? Do you live in the area? Are there restaurants you go to? Is there a place that you like? Is there a coffee shop you like? Whatever. So we
Hmm.
go through that process. Then we look at the kind of dentistry they want to do. So if it's like, hey, I want to do all in four or whatever. Okay, are there retirement communities nearby? Are there country clubs nearby? Like people that can
Yeah.
literally like write you a check for this stuff.
Right. Right.
Or if it's, hey, I want to do clear aligners and I'm an ortho and I want to just do brackets and wires. Oh, cool. So do we have schools nearby? Again, gyms are a good place for that. If you
Hmm.
do, a visual where it's like somebody in really good shape and their smiles messed up, you're
Yeah.
going to hit on a lot of people that are probably self-conscious about that are in great physical shape, but they're like, man, I got to get my smile on point. Right. So, and then we've done so much custom stuff like the trampoline park, the
Yeah.
dog
That's
park.
so cool. Yeah.
Every practice has their things, and my docs, we develop that relationship where they'll call me and be like, hey, they're offering me the banner at the little league stadium in the outfield. Here's how much it cost.
Hmm.
Here's the foot traffic. Like, what do you think it'll be worth it? And we part of our service for our doctors is we help them with that stuff that pops up.
Right.
But it's just dependent. There's so many factors that affect each practice individually. I've never understood how you can at scale be like, here's all the marketing stuff you're ever going to need,
Yeah. Yeah.
because every dentist has a unique this or that pops up always.
Well, and what you said earlier about how sometimes other companies, when you do the switch, I mean, I've heard that universally. So let's just level set. And if you are going to switch marketing companies, it is going to be a little bit painful. It's like if you switched from one reminder system to another. So
Well,
they're,
we've been really
mhm.
blessed in terms of the team I've been really blessed to build has been. they're all in dental or have been in dental, and so
Oh,
we
good.
we take a lot of the burden for our docs. They
Yeah.
basically just say, "Hey, so and so has my full permission to discuss my account," and
Yeah.
then we take it off of them a lot. But we've done this a ton too. But it is, I mean, sometimes it's difficult, and there's a lot of the marketing companies too. They're not totally upfront. I mean, and maybe they are, and not to say anything bad about marketers, like it's doctors that are signing the contracts at the end of the day.
Hmm.
But I have so many docs that they come to the end and they're like, okay, I want to switch, and like, we don't own your website, like you don't own anything,
Yeah.
and they're
See,
just like,
that's just
yeah.
that's I mean, that is terrible. It's so predatory. And I know there's one company out there that I think I really believe that she makes her money by setting stuff up and then just not there's no touch. So I think doctors just unless there's a problem, they're happy to pay this amount every month, and then they realize, oh my God, I just have this website. There's nothing else being on
Yeah,
here,
and you
and
dentistry,
so
like you can't set it and forget it. I mean,
yeah,
you
but
can, but you
yeah.
you shouldn't.
Well, and so managers, I know a lot of managers and younger doctors listen to this. Like if your website hasn't had if you haven't heard from your website company in a while, I mean, this is so dynamic after talking to several marketing companies just in the last year. Like there is no like you said, set it and forget it. There's constantly some sort of updating going on in the background. During the pregame, we were also talking about the fact that Google, just Google will Google and it will always googly, and so
Hmm.
you just you never know what it's going to do, and so whatever your marketing company did a year ago or 2 years ago, likely that has changed, right? Even not just SEO, but how they track clicks, how they drive traffic, and all of that.
Yeah, so Google doesn't care about me or you or anybody else. All they care
Hmm.
about is that end user that's using Google.
Yeah.
And so most people don't even know there's multiple algorithms going on. So there's things that affect where you rank on maps versus where you rank in traditional SEO.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And maps typically, and again, it's hard to say anything concrete. Like when I see people making concrete statements about Google anything,
Hmm.
it's tough because every day, like today, the 30 minutes we've been talking, people at Google are always turning knobs and they're trying different things because they want that algorithm to be spot on, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's why you'll see, oh, well, hey, you you can't put near me in search anymore. Like, sorry, because there's a
Mm.
lot of people that jumped on that train. We,
Yeah.
we did too, to a degree, but then they turned it off because people start to manipulate it. So Google's always playing with the algorithm. So things that matter today may not matter next week. And it's
Okay.
not that they're not going to matter forever. It's just Google's turning it off to see what happens because
Does
they're
it
always
make
playing with it.
does it make sense in so the Google Maps thing, what I really like is when I'm looking like because I manage my doctor's appointments for my mom and my dad who
Hmm.
live with us. And so what I really like when I was investigating their doctors and setting them up when they moved in was I was able to go to Google Maps and I looked at them, and some of the offices had pictures of the office right
Hmm.
there. And I'm guessing that pulls from their index on Google, not that might pull it from their website, or are you uploading the pictures directly to like Google My Business or whatever it's called now?
Yeah, so
Um,
Google Business it's kind of a pseudo social media feed now. So we actually post out there for our clients
okay.
because Google likes to see activity. But you
Yeah.
can post, you can put photos, you can put videos. We put video out there too.
Hmm.
There's a lot that you can do with advanced setup. So you can do like a primary category, and then you can do a bunch of secondary categories too. So if
Okay.
you're a GP, but maybe you have an endo in your office, you can put those additional categories right down, and they're always adding new categories.
Oh, that's great.
Google just
Okay.
does whatever they want to do. They don't check
Right.
with anybody. They don't tell you anything. Usually, what they do is enough. So, like in the Facebook world and things, you'll have enough SEO pros that are like, "Hey, this isn't ranking anymore," and then Google will be like, "Oh yeah, we turned that off." That's usually how it works.
It's like the worst Mean Girls type thing. It sounds like
Yeah,
so.
the guy's name is
Uh,
John Mueller is his name. He's like the big wig at Google that's over all of this, and he's always the one that's like, "Yeah, that's not a ranking factor anymore."
so
You're just like,
Chief
"Okay,
Tinkerer is
yeah,
what he is. Just
pretty much."
okay. So let me just clarify. So the images that are on the Google Maps, those come from the Google My Business
Mhm. You can upload,
profile.
yeah, you can
Okay.
upload images. And
Okay.
if patients put a photo in a review and things, it'll aggregate those things to you.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm just thinking, you and I were out on the road a lot, and when I go to look for a restaurant, like if there's pictures of the food, I want to see it
Hmm.
because sometimes what's on the menu, you don't know what you're looking at.
Well,
So
I always love seeing somebody in a review that took a photo instead of like, the school yearbook photo that the restaurant took.
Right,
Like I
right.
like seeing the legit stuff that people see. But again,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
goes back to that fear, the apprehension. Like, I don't know what to expect. Um,
Mhm.
and so it just gives me insight into what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like. It's
Okay.
crazy when, like when you go somewhere the first time you're apprehensive and then you go back and you're comfortable.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
going through that same emotional journey. We're just using
Okay.
photos and video to do it.
Okay. So that's smart. I didn't even think about doing the Google Maps thing, but I mean, when people are looking for a dentist, I mean, so now I can't do a dentist near me. That kind of stinks. Like
It's
I
it's
was
just it's all proximal on where your device is. So
Well, I just remember like being in Chicago and I remember saying, "Where's that near me thing?" Because I was looking for like drugstore near me. I just needed to get to CVS and drugstore near me and I there was no near me. It just was drugstore and I was like, "Wait, what happened?" Okay, so now that makes
well, it's
total
just
sense.
people, we ruin everything. And so people start to manipulate it. And at the
Right.
end of the day, Google wants the best result. So if you call your business such and such near me, and there were people I think that named like near me dental and stuff. There was all
Really?
kinds of
Wow.
variations of that.
Wow.
Google has to adjust because you're never going to outsmart Google. Like it's never going to happen.
That's hilarious. I wouldn't have even thought
No,
to
like
like even go that
one of
far.
our SEO or Google AdWords premieres, like she worked at Google, and I'm amazed at the stuff that they know and that they do. It's insane.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so real quick before we head out,
Hmm.
SEO still is this mystery. So can you like do like explain it to like a 5-year-old? What is SEO and why do I keep hearing I need to spend a ton of money on it?
um, yeah, it's it goes back to that price versus value thing. SEO
Yeah.
is just like anything else. I mean, there's a rhythm to it. There's a right way to do it. There's a gray area to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it. I really like to focus on maps because most, like, you fish where the fish are. So like most of your people are going to be doing a proximity search
Mhm.
to their house or where they are.
Okay.
And so, reviews obviously are super important. Filling out your Google business profile effectively is also super important. So,
Hmm.
like for instance, with holidays coming up, so let's say 4th of July, you actually take the time to go in there and mark the office closed. You get a little brownie points with Google because they appreciate that you're doing that because it's making it better for the end user. And that's why they give you
Really?
the ability to do those things. So it's
Oh,
just all these little things, right, that give you benefit.
yeah.
But if you're bringing value and they can see it in terms of the traffic patterns and all those things to people, you're going to rank higher on those pages. Trying to manipulate
Hmm.
Google is not a good idea because again, they're smart. They have the smartest people ever. So any SEO
Yeah.
person that oh, I've outsmarted Google. No, you haven't. Like they just aren't paying attention to you yet. But once they
Yeah.
are, they're going to blow this up and fix it because they don't want you being able to manipulate anything. They want it
Yeah.
genuinely based on that algorithm. So I always focus on local. It seems like when you do the local effectively, the organic just naturally comes along. It's just like in
Hmm.
life, if you provide value to people, profit usually follows you.
Yeah, for
Same thing.
sure. For
Because Google
sure.
wants to reward you if you're playing by the rules and doing the Google things they want you to do.
Hmm.
So just do everything effectively. Pay attention to the extra steps. They give you a lot of extra steps that you can do that usually get glossed over. Most people don't know they can set like 9 subcategories. So
Yeah, I didn't know that.
so
Okay.
take the time to go through and do that stuff. Um, Make sure patients are leaving reviews, those kind of things. A lot of the proximal searches now are where the device is. Like you're losing the ability more and more to be able to really control that.
Hmm.
Google does it because they, if you do near me, etc., they want it to actually be near you.
Yeah.
With SEO, though, most dentists have gotten taken advantage of when it comes to SEO. Like they spent a lot
Yeah.
and didn't get a lot. But even when we take the time to explain it to them, it'd be like them trying to explain like advanced things that they do. I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, I hired SEO people that work here that are smarter than I ever will be at SEO.
Okay.
And so they keep up with the trends and the changes because it's just like anything else. They're always shifting because Google's always playing with it. But if you do the basics really well and don't skip them, don't manipulate them, make sure that your listing is set up, make sure that your hours and everything are accurate, your categories are set up, etc. Effectively tie it into your website, make sure that that link is there. Post photos, right?
Yeah.
Regularly post out there.
Yeah.
Do those kind of things. And then on the website side, you're able to track and you can see how you're ranking. A lot of times you can do incognito search, right? And to a degree,
Yeah.
like Google yourself, if you will. I'm not a huge proponent of that because a lot of times doctors can kind of get frazzled because
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that go into that too.
Right.
But with SEO, a lot of times, if again, generating traffic is not the problem for most people. It's the traffic isn't converting. So I meet doctors all the time that say, "Oh, I'm on like page 10, and I'm trying to move up to page 1 for a given
Oh my
procedure."
gosh. Poor guy had to go all the way to 10 to get that result. Oh.
Well, but it happens all the time. Like you see
Yeah.
doctors and you go to their so like you for instance this recent conversation, you go to the website and all of the services are stacked on one service page.
Mm,
And so you start to get into all these little things where like let's break out if this is the kind of dentistry you want to do, let's build some custom things with some additional pages and
right.
keywords and all still matter, but they're not as relevant. When a marketing company comes in and tells you, hey, your SEO's garbage, a lot of it is they're selling you through
Hmm.
fear that, your dog's going to die, your house is going to burn down if you don't work with us right now. And I hear it because people
Yeah.
actually think art of dental marketing is a dental practice. I get it all the time. I get people that are like, hey, could you use, 20 new implant patients a month? It's only
Oh,
$5. I'm just like, okay. But I get it all the time. With SEO, though, it's hard to give you an answer because the answer I'm going to give you right now might be different by the time that this comes out. So
well,
I always tell people do the basics effectively and you will
okay.
be rewarded. Find a partner that actually will build you an SEO plan. If they say, oh, everybody gets the same keywords. No, we don't do anything custom. We don't write custom blog posts. No, like we don't do any of that stuff. That's when
Yeah.
it's like, okay.
Well, and I think for the listeners, I think what's going to make you a very smart consumer is just listening to what Sean just said, where it is different, it changes, and when a marketer acknowledges that they don't know everything, then I'm good with that, honestly, because that's it's this your atmosphere changes a lot, and
Yeah.
I can't even keep on top of what's going on with Google and social media and Threads came out and I was like, all right, I guess I'll do that. I have no idea what I'm doing. Then I
Yeah.
got off of Threads and now Rita's like, get back on Threads. And I'm like, I don't even know. If you run across a marketer who has like, this is the absolute way, I would be very wary of that.
Yeah. And two, I would stress to focus on these elements of the story and converting. Like so many practices, like that, they do like, oh, my SEO's, $300 a month. And that's typically like I know how much it costs to employ quality people to do that. It'd be
Mm-hmm.
like if you're like, hey, I pay my hygienist $7. It's like, where'd she go to school, right?
Yeah.
And so but it's the same thing. It's like the only way that you're as a business able to do that, right? It
Yeah.
has to be something where it's like maybe it's like it's got an AI component to it. Not to say there's anything wrong with that, but you have to be clear with people
Mm-hmm.
what like who's doing it. Is it somebody here? Are they overseas? Is it a
Right.
is it a bot or is it an actual human being? We've tried it every way over the last 9 years. I found the best success is having really capable, competent humans here that
Mm-hmm.
know dentistry and they know what they're doing to create
Yeah.
content, to build the strategy out, to be able to effectively convey. I mean, even if you're on page 4, but you rank really well in maps, and then when they go to your website, I'm converting more of them because your website tells a really great story and I'm getting them
Mm.
invested.
Okay.
Who cares, right?
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
get you to page 1. A lot of it takes time. There's certain parts of the algorithm you can't finagle with, which is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, age of your domain and things like that, number of reviews and stuff like that. You can get more, but like the number of a review count last time, as far as organic SEO does, it's not even a factor. It matters on maps.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
you kind of hear all, and I get it. Like they scare doctors to death with all this information to get them to sign up.
Yeah.
The other thing too is like all of our agreements are month to month. I don't understand long term contracts. It's disingenuous if I lock you in. It's like, hey, do you want to go on a date? Cool, let's get married. Like sign,
Right. I
right?
mean that really is it. Yeah, and especially since you don't have quote unquote equipment that
Yeah,
you are giving up. I mean that might be a reason for a couple months at a time, but
yeah.
yeah, and I think our industry is moving towards recognizing like that's really just unreasonable in most cases.
Yeah, and
So
we talk about SEO all the time. I mean, I have my two SEO like top like overseer brain people, Will and Sarah. God bless them. Like they're who I go to because I'm like, hey, I just saw this new thing from Google. Like, what is this? And they're like,
yeah,
it's this and this and this and this. But that's been the best move I've ever made as a business owner is getting people that are smarter than I'll ever hope to be to do
yeah.
super smart stuff.
I think that's a good business tip in general, honestly. Like
Yeah.
the smarter your team is, the smarter you are.
Yeah. Huge shout out to
By
Will and Sarah, Trey,
Yeah.
my whole crew. They're amazing.
Awesome. Awesome. So I am going to put in the show notes your pocketvideocoach.com, but
Hmm.
also you shared a private link with us that you would do a 15-minute review or a strategy call, I guess,
Yeah.
about that. So, if this resonated with any of you, make sure that you take advantage of that offer there. That'll be in the show notes. So
Yeah.
how
Please
can
do.
they reach you other than those two links that I'm going to give them? How can they find you, Sean?
So I'm typically at events, SEN. I'll be at a few events. I'm getting to speak at ADOM this year, which is going to be awesome. I'm
Nice.
super
Yes,
excited.
nice.
But you can find me on socials. It's Sean SEAN. I spelled it the right way. Well, my parents spelled it the right way, but it's just Sean at artofdentalmarketing.com. And yeah, it's artofdentalmarketing.com /GM strategy call. I sent you the link of what it is.
Hmm.
But it's I know it's always like, hey, we're gonna do an audit, and then they just like shoot holes, and they're like, you have the worst marketer ever. We're the best. Whatever. I like to talk the strategy that we're talking about, so docs can see how easy this really is, and
Yeah.
they can take the 15 minutes from that call, and if they really want to, they can move the needle the next day if they want to.
That's awesome. So, and I know with so many offices that are planning on going out of network or have gone out of network, what I hear a lot is they go out of network and then they're like, something we missed a step somewhere, and it's almost always the marketing.
Hmm.
So, you mean you concentrated so much on not losing the patients that you have, you forgot about the acquisition
Yeah.
piece that the
Get you
carrier was sending to you.
get you a
Yeah,
membership plan and
yeah,
show people
yeah.
how high end the experience is.
Just get out there, right? Like you said, like get out there. Find a dog park. I think a dog park is genius. I'm a dog lover, so for
Hmm.
me, somebody who took the time to advertise at a dog park, I would be like, oh, I like this
And
person.
pet photographers are so cheap. And if you tell people like, hey, do you want to do like glamour shots for your dog? Most people are like, yeah. And then
Hello.
while they're taking pictures, it's like, oh yeah, I'm opening a
Yeah.
practice right over there. Oh,
I mean, just get yourself a little bandana with your logo and the name. Dog owners love bandanas. My
frisbees, do it
gosh.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
See,
All right. This
yeah.
is good. See, you're right. The community base. Like, look how excited I got about that. See, dogs, bandanas. I'm super
And
excited. So,
if you took a Saturday afternoon to go do that, it wouldn't be like, ugh, I have to go do this thing. You'd be like, yeah, like
yeah,
let's
I get
go.
to see dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, Sean, thank you so much. I will put all the information in the show notes. I hope this has been helpful for most of you. I know that a lot of you are struggling right now with how to make the transition to go out of network or to really just bump up your game. And I think this would be a good way to do it. So, dear listeners, I want to thank you so much for always, always spending your time with me.
Thank you, Teresa.
Sure.
We're all super busy, so thank you for making time for me today. The show notes will have any links that we referenced in the episode. You can also find links for my book, events, and my online insurance course, Dental Insurance Design and Management. I speak often around the country on management and insurance issues. Come hang out with me in one of my classes. I promise you'll laugh and learn.